11 days, 11 images from Ukraine, each one picked to be representative of what happened on that particular day. If you start from day 1, keep going till day 11, you can see visibly how things have escalated. Things have not paused even for a moment in different parts of Ukraine, whether it is the south, the east, Kiev, and in the north, especially near the Russian border, where airstrikes today have defined a visible and marked escalation in the hostilities. The only part of Ukraine that is relatively peaceful, and I use the word relatively with caution here, is the western part of Ukraine, which borders with several NATO countries. But in the rest of Ukraine, this is the defining image, this is the defining picture of what's happening. India today, remember, has debris, destruction, doom, devastation have become familiar and recurring in almost every part of the big cities of Ukraine, at least on the outskirts. As Russian troops continue their offensive for an 11th day straight, claims and counterclaims have taken center stage in an even more dramatic way. Russia, for instance, claims that they've destroyed more than 2,100 Ukrainian military installations, including 74 control points and communication centers of the Ukrainian armed forces, 108 S-300 anti-air missile systems, as well as 68 radar stations. These are huge claims that have no corroborations on either side. In fact, Ukraine is making even more extravagant claims at this time. Russia has also claimed to have destroyed 748 Ukrainian tanks and armored vehicles, and also bombed 5 radar stations, 2 Buk M1 anti-aircraft missile systems. Ukraine has also hit back at Russia in its own claim war, saying that they have seized 30 units of Russian equipment, 44 Russian planes, 44 choppers, and also shot down several times these numbers. President Zelenskyy has also said that over 10,000 Russian soldiers have been killed to now. It's one of the biggest, most staggering claims of damage that have been made so far in this crisis. I want to go across to Gaurav Sawant, who's live with us from Kiev. He is India's most watched reporter on the ground. Gaurav, I want to talk for a moment about the claims and the counterclaims that have been coming in between both sides. It's incredible because Ukraine claims to have killed 10,000 Russian soldiers so far in this crisis. Captured or shot down 44 aircraft, 44 helicopters. Russia has said that they have smashed or destroyed at least 700 pieces of, military installation of the Ukrainians. These are huge claims in just 11 days, Gaurav.
Shiv, good morning. Day 11 of the war, -4 degrees temperature here in the capital Kiev. Claims and counterclaims are intense. Russia and Ukraine are both also releasing images to back their claims. Of course, not of 44 aircraft and 44 attack and transport helicopters, but of Russian Air Force pilots. They're saying a Su-30 pilot was captured. They've put out 2 images. One of that pilot and an earlier mission in another country with the Russian President Vladimir Putin standing next to him, and now injured, battered, bleeding, clothes torn when he bailed out after his aircraft was brought down by the surface-to-air missile here in Ukraine. Point 1. Point 2, Russia too has brought out images, and they've released images and videos of Kherson, where a military garrison fell, and in Kherson, Russia's put out videos of that entire garrison, all the weapons, all the vehicles that they've captured, and in fit for war condition is what they claim. So claim and counterclaims from both sides. The Ukrainians also put out a video sometime back saying they targeted a convoy of Russian military vehicles, and Russian soldiers fled, leaving behind their tanks. That image that went viral a couple of days ago of a farmer towing a T-90 tank and taking it away. So one place not yet known, but claims and counterclaims being made by both sides and by very senior persons. This claim about destroying 88 fighter jets, attack helicopters and transport helicopters were made by the Ministry of Defense here. 10,000 soldiers being killed in 10 days of war, 10,000 Russian soldiers being killed in 10 days of war is a claim that's been made by President Zelenskyy himself. And this actually motivates soldiers because these claims are then oft-repeated, not just on television, but also on social media platforms and radio. And everyone here in Kiev is hooked on either to TV or to radio, constantly listening to every brief. And the president briefs the nation every day, every night, wearing his olive green combat fatigues. He briefs the nation about the day's developments and the actions taken so far, while he also targets Western countries for not standing by Ukraine and virtually pushing them into war as he seeks additional aircraft and other weapons of war. So Shiv, here it's motivated people. You were just talking about how people are queuing up to join the forces.
Yes.
That's not information warfare. That's something that we've seen on ground. People actually stand in long queues, braving, this icy cold weather to be able to pick up a weapon. And they're very disappointed when they're told we've run out of weapons right now. You make do with Molotov cocktails, but stay here. So all those images are not just viral, but they are a reality of the capital, Kiev.
No, there's no doubt about it. The kind of heart being shown by people, citizens in Ukraine is incredible to see. It's bitterly cold there. Many of these people, as Gaurav has been reporting, have returned from safety abroad. Many Ukrainians live and work abroad.Ey've come back in from Poland. They've gone back to Ukraine from India. Many Ukrainians, remember here, who live and work in India, from the United States, wherever it is. Many of them have actually chosen to go back home, put aside their safety, cushy lives, get back into the battlefield and defend their country. So there's a sentiment here that simply cannot be ignored. The claim war is absolutely staggering. Gaurav, stay with me. I want to show our viewers, the scale of the claims that are being made right now, because they're actually becoming bigger and more otherworldly with each passing day. Let's take a look at some of the big claims that are being made. Ukraine claims, for instance, that it has shot down 44 Russian aircraft so far. It has shot down 44 helicopters of Russia so far. It has said that it has destroyed 945 armored vehicles of Russia and that it has managed to kill 10,000 Russian soldiers. It has destroyed 269 Russian tanks. Ukraine says it has destroyed 45 multi-rocket launch systems, and it has also said that all of these are things that they have proof about, though nobody's actually seen them. Russia, on the other hand, claims that it has downed 90 Ukrainian jets. Huge, almost double the number that Ukraine is claiming. Russia claims it has destroyed 748 Ukrainian tanks. Russia claims it has destroyed 76 Ukrainian multi-rocket launch systems. Russia claims it has busted or destroyed 532 military vehicles. Russia says it has destroyed 274 Ukrainian artillery units. Russia claims it has, destroyed at least 2,100 military outposts. So these numbers are staggering. These numbers are really, really big. Some images have come out so far to show you what the damage has actually looked like, but nowhere does it capture the scale of some of these numbers that both sides are describing at this point of time. It's day 11 of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Attacks continue on the city of Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest metropolis, as airstrikes damaged several buildings in the city. Remember, this is the city where only India today has reported so far. But if we're looking at these 5 cities, including Belgorod, which is in Russia, you're looking at how this escalation looks on day 11. Multiple buildings on fire, explosions in the distance. Russian forces opened fire at locals protesting against the Kremlin occupation in the breakaway Luhansk region in the east. According to Ukraine, multiple people have been wounded as Russian forces opened fire at unarmed protesters. Again, this is in the realm of claim. Meanwhile, the battle for the Ukrainian capital, Kiev, has become visibly more intense. A video released by Ukraine shows badly damaged buildings after Russian airstrikes in a town 85 kilometers from the capital, Kiev. Russian troops are also headed towards the Kharkiv hydroelectric power plant near Kiev. At the same time, thousands of Ukrainians have been taking up arms, as Gaurav just said, in the city of Kherson, which is in the south, the first city to fall to Russian control, to protest against the Russian invasion. Meanwhile, the next round of talks between Russia and Ukraine will be held on Monday, where they're once again going to discuss ceasefire. and safe passage for citizens.
Поэтому защищайтесь, иначе она заберет и ваши жизни, и ваши дома. Украина в своих не стреляет. Мы не взрываем жилые дома. И все на Донбассе для нас всегда были и будут украинцами, нашими людьми, нашими гражданами. У Донецку.
I want to go back to Gaurav Sawant, who continues to be with me. Gaurav, what has changed in Kiev in the last 24 hours? That military convoy continues to, get ever closer to Kiev. Let's have images of just Kiev on our screen while we talk about it. We'll come to the other cities one by one and get an update. For now, I'm going to say, let's just put just Kiev on our screen. We've got 5 new images of what's happening in and around Kiev. So let's show those to our viewers and keep it as specific as possible. I'm going to say this again. Let's keep our pictures as specific as possible. I don't want to confuse our viewers. Viewers are watching us because we care to tell an accurate story of what's happening. Gaurav Sawant is from Kiev. Gaurav, what has changed in the last 24 hours as far as Kiev is concerned? And I want all the new pictures of Kiev on my screen.
Shiv, on ground, Kiev resembles a fortress. Kiev resembles a fortress and a garrison town. It's virtually an obstacle every couple of 100 meters to stall the advance of the Russian tanks, troops and convoys. It will not be an easy ride into the center of the district where the presidential palace, the parliament and all other, the buildings are. There are multiple surface-to-air systems that are now not just around Kiev but also inside Kiev to ensure if there's an air attack, then that air attack can be countered. The Second World War hedgehogs, anti-tank obstacle systems, they are now being manufactured. So any factory that had anything to do with iron or steel or welding, whatever work they were doing, they've put an into it, and all their manufacturing is these obstacles, these hedgehogs to be put all over. Concrete slabs, some 4 feet high, 10 feet long, they are being brought from everywhere in cranes, military cranes, civil cranes, any vehicle, a huge, trawler. It's only being used to bring in these barriers. Sand is being brought from wherever they can get. All other construction activity has come to a standstill. Only construction activity is barricades, sand barriers and these blocks. Because remember, when the tanks come charging in, they will continue to fire. Protection for soldiers, because any obstacle is only as good as the men who are manning that obstacle. Otherwise, the tanks will come crashing through or remove the obstacle and move to the next level. Shiv, this is, you're actually watching what you see in war movies or what you see in an institution, which talks about an attack and defending a town. You're seeing this happen on ground here at multiple levels in terms of, if there is an obstacle, there is an ATGM, an anti-tank guided missile, there is a machine gun nest, there are surface-to-air missiles, all in a way that they can stall the advance. Then the army chief here made it very clear that they're not fighting a defensive battle, they're taking the battle into the enemy camp or the Russian invasion, as they put it. How are they doing that? They have multiple quick mobile forces that will hit the convoy, and they have been hitting the convoy, as they claim, from multiple flanks and in between. They're looking for those, the chinks, they're looking for chinks in the armor, and the moment they see a chink in the armor, they strike. And the army here claims that's the reason why just this 90 miles from Belarus to Kiev, this very powerful 63-kilometer long convoy hasn't been able to cover in a week. The only reason is because it's being targeted at every stage, including, according to the army here, according to information being put out by air-to-ground attacks that are taking place on that convoy. Whether now that convoy, they say, is barely at the outskirts, it's only waiting for the convoy from the south and the east, or the forces from the south and the east to fetch up, and then a multi-pronged offensive will be mounted. How successful will that be given this resistance? Also the route to the west. People are leaving the city, Shiv, and quickly, and resources are coming in from the west. will Russia now, once people have left, as a number of people are trying to leave, will Russia now close that access from the west and then lay a siege and starve the city? Starve the city of food, starve the city of weapons, starve the city of energy, considering they're not only targeting nuclear energy plants in the sense that they're taking control of them, they've also targeted gas. Kiev Gas just issued a statement about an hour ago saying that in 5 different cities they're unable to operate. They're suspending their operations because they're unable to repair the lines that have been targeted in full-scale Russian invasion, as they put it. So whether it's Kharkiv or Irpin or certain other areas, they don't have access to gas anymore in certain areas. Now, if Kiev is also starved of gas, how long will this city last without energy, without gas, without electricity, and if it's surrounded from all sides, Shiv?
What are you hearing about what's happening in Kharkiv? The second largest city of Ukraine right now has apparently seen an elevated amount of air activity, airstrikes taking place in Kharkiv as well.
Shiv, late last night I spoke to a journalist in Kharkiv who was telling us about missiles raining down on Kharkiv. This morning there's information about air attacks that are taking place in Kharkiv. Several buildings have been targeted. According to people here, civilian areas are also now being targeted, and punitive strikes, we are told, on Kharkiv in a message that Russia is trying to send out to any city that resists the Russian onslaught. Perhaps Kharkiv being in the east, sharing a border with Russia, if their aim was to roll in with their tanks and make that into their third independent republic after Donetsk and Luhansk, that clearly didn't happen with Kharkiv. It's resisting and continues to resist even today. So the town may be in Russian control, or pockets of the main town may be in Russian control. The locality, the overall general area, the region still has a sizable number of Ukrainian forces who are launching swift counter attacks to once again take control, and that is why, Shiv, we are hearing of these punitive strikes, including cutting off of access. As an aside, we are told that Indian students are now out of Kharkiv. They have been taken to safety, but they remain in certain other pockets, including in Sumy. Those who were there at Pesochin, they were taken out. Now India's effort, Shiv, is to take out all the Indian children who may be trapped in Sumy, which again is easier said than done at this stage, because until that fighting stops, retrieving them may take longer.
Thanks very much for joining me on that. I'm going to keep coming back to you. Gaurav is in Kiev right now. It's day 11. We've got reporters in all the 6 big cities of Ukraine reporting. The only channel with ground reports from all 6 cities. These images from Kharkiv over the last couple of days, including images of an airstrike or a missile strike on a building in Kharkiv. It's Ukraine's second largest city and continues to be one of the most attacked cities. Chernihiv, north of Kiev, is also becoming one of the most damaged urban centers in Ukraine at this point of time. Now, as capital city Kiev braces for what is expected to be a big Russian aggression or a final assault to take control of the city, professional boxers and brothers Vitaly and Vladimir Klitschko, global superstars, each one of them a former heavyweight boxing champion of the world, both Ukrainian icons, have taken up arms and joined the Ukrainian military to protect their war-torn motherland. The fact that Vitaly is also mayor of Kiev makes the battle even more interesting. According to reports, both brothers have already killed an estimated 6 Russian soldiers since they joined the Ukrainian military. There's no corroboration of that, but that's the legend on the ground. Listen in to this exclusive.
All this support came from you guys and friends and partners, international partners. Thank you so much. We're receiving packages, we're receiving food, we're receiving medicine. You're great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's never enough though. Thank you. The drama that is unfolding in Ukraine at this very moment questions the very notion of humanity. The dignity of man is being called into question through the voluntary aggression of civilians and the extinction that are multiplying everywhere on the territory of our country. What is happening in the heart of Europe touches the heart of all the inhabitants of our planet who love justice and values of goodness, regardless of their region or religion. I expressly appeal to the world's spiritual leaders to take a stand and assume that moral function that is incumbent upon them and to proudly assume the responsibility of their religions for peace. Thus, I want to turn into His Holiness Pope Francis, Ahmed Mohammed Ahmed El Taib, Dalai Lama, Chief Rabbi of Israel, David Baruch, Lau and Patriarch Kirill, the first, and invite them to come to Kiev to show their solidarity with the Ukrainian people, to show their compassion and to join together in a spirit of harmony that my country and the whole world needs. Let us make Kiev the capital of humanity, spirituality, and peace.
Unity is our key for freedom.
India Today is the only channel that's been relentlessly covering the war and bringing out the stories of suffering. Suffering on both sides. In one such story, India Today's Geeta Mohan, who's on the ground also in Ukraine, spoke to a civilian who's returning to Kiev on a train after getting his friends, family and children to safety. He's put them in safety and now going back to the war zone in Kiev. He wants to fight against the Russians for his motherland.
Hardly any people on this train, but this gentleman over here is going back to Kiev after dropping his godchildren to the border and across to Poland. Thank you for joining over here with India Today. What's your name?
Hi, actually I have the same name as this crazy mad tyrann who killed our kids, but I call myself Volodya.
So you don't want to call yourself Vladimir anymore?
No, I don't want.
Okay, that's how bad it is, that he does not even want to call himself as the same name as that of the Russian president. Volodym, let's start with that. Volodym, why are you going back to Kiev? And what were you doing when you took your godchildren, your friends' children across the border?
I come back because it's my hard duty, so I don't have an even choice. It's my neighborhood. I was born there, and I'm just put in safe place, my friend's family, and come back to fight against Russian crazy terrorists.
How difficult has it been for you, your family? Your elders are still in Kiev?
Yeah, some of my family, my sister family, she has 4 kids and she has a little time to go away from Mashu. Now it's near to Gostomel. Her house, I think, is destroyed and everything stolen from it, but she has chance to go away. My mother live in Kiev, my grandfather, they are all very old people, could not live without medicine help. Also all my friends fighting against, try to help, who has not opportunity to fight.
Your friend is also in the army and you're also going to join the forces?
We are not army, we are civilian people. For civilian forces, so we don't have experience with war, but we do our best.
On day 11 of Russia's invasion, one of the most notable aspects of the way this war is turning is Putin setting his eyes on capturing all 15 of Ukraine's nuclear power plants, which supply as much as half of the country's electricity. Ukraine claims that Russian troops have captured 2 Ukrainian nuclear power plants already and is advancing towards the 3rd nuclear facility. According to President Zelenskyy, the Russians have already captured Chernobyl, which is defunct, but it is still staffed and maintained by Ukraine, as well as Zaporizhia in southern Ukraine, which happens to be Europe's largest nuclear power facility. Remember, a couple of days back, Zaporizhia's power plant facility was attacked by Russians. The administrative building near the reactors was set ablaze. For all practical purposes, Zaporizhia is under Russian control at this point of time, as is Chernobyl. A 3rd site is being now approached by Russian forces. something that Operation Blackout may look like? Could Putin basically be looking to throttle the power output in Ukraine to gain more leverage and meet his military objectives and political objectives in Ukraine faster? If he can control all the electricity supply, all the power supply, could that be something that accelerates the end of this war? Let's go straight across to show you what the map of Ukraine looks like, juxtaposed with where those nuclear facilities are at this time. Chernobyl was one of the first sites that was taken over. It's inactive. There's no nuclear activity happening there after the 1986 nuclear disaster, but it is still staffed and maintained, so it is still considered strategic and sensitive, and that's something that's been encircled by Russian forces. Zaporizhia, claims and counterclaims have been made about it. It's Europe's largest nuclear power facility. Here as well, it has shifted between Ukraine controlling it or Russia controlling it, but we have information that Russia basically controls it right now. The third is the Yuzhno-Ukrainsk nuclear facility, which is also one of the biggest ones in Ukraine and Europe. Russian forces are said to be approaching. There's one more facility in western Ukraine called Rivno, where the Russian troops are not nearby, but that also obviously becomes vulnerable. So there are 4 sites in total. There are 4 separate sites where there are active nuclear power plants. There's Rivne, which is here in western Ukraine. There's Khmelnytsky, apologies for that pronunciation if I've got it wrong, has 2 nuclear power plants. South Ukraine has 3 nuclear power plants, and Zaporizhia has 6 nuclear power plants, which makes it the biggest in Europe. So a total of 15 nuclear power plants or reactors in 4 different sites. All of these supply 50% of Ukraine's electricity needs on the ground. Russia continues in the meanwhile to unleash its fury. Air power being seen in a much more dramatic and visible manner over the last 48 hours. Videos of 4 Russian Air Force aircraft shot down by Ukraine's air defense forces have been surfacing over the last 24 hours. An Mi-35 attack helicopter and 3 Russian Sukhoi Su-25 jets all captured on camera and released by the Ukrainian government. Ukrainian air defense also claimed to have shot down a Russian drone in the last 24 hours. Ukraine has shared several pictures of pilots of these downed aircraft being taken captive. All aircraft were claimed to have been shot down in and around the capital city, Kiev. In a few of these videos shared by Ukraine, personnel can be seen interrogating the captured Russian pilots. Russia continues to bombard key cities from the air. Videos of Sukhoi aircraft, Su-25 aircraft flying over the city of Irpin, which is a city just outside of Kiev, have also been surfacing. Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy claims that more than 10,000 Russian army troops have been killed in the war till now. Several different Russian weapons have already been used in the conflict so far. We're seeing a marked increase in the application of air power, from attack helicopters to fighter jets conducting airstrikes. But here's a look at some of the ground weapons that are being used so far in the Ukraine war. Here's a deep dive into some of those weapons. And a Russian cruise missile, which is believed to have been used quite a lot in the crisis so far in Ukraine, is called the 3M54 caliber cruise missile. It has a length of between 6 and 9 meters. It has a weight of between 1,300 and 2,300 kilograms. Very, very capable weapon with multi-platform utility, explosive 400 to 500 kilogram warhead, and a formidable range of anywhere between 220 and 4,500 kilometers. Many of the cruise missile attacks on the city of Kharkiv, outside Kiev and other places are believed to have been use of caliber cruise missile. A weapon that is already believed to have been used by Russian forces in various attacks in Ukraine already is the TOS one. That's the weapon you see on your screen. The rockets are basically thermobaric rockets. It's a weapon system that's mounted, as you can see, on a T-72 tank chassis. The rate of fire is pretty high, 15 rounds in 30 seconds, and it has a range of anywhere between 300 and 3,500 meters. The rockets that it launches are vacuum bombs, basically thermobaric, which use environmental oxygen to generate a high-intensity explosion. So vacuum bombs also already being used in the crisis. Another big escalation in the Russia-Ukraine war is with Ukraine claiming to have shot down a Russian Mi-35 helicopter by a shoulder-launched air defense missile. It was one of the most dramatic videos that's been captured by a drone camera. The incident was caught on camera yesterday and released by Ukrainian forces. The Russian helicopter can be seen exploding in a ball of fire after being hit by that shoulder-launched missile. In another incident, Ukraine claims to have shot down Russian jets near the city of Chernihiv. Ukraine also claims to have captured that pilot, while the co-pilot probably died in the crash. Pictures of all of this released by Ukraine in the latest flare-up of claims, counterclaims and the combat missions. Take a look. Perhaps the most dramatic footage in 10 days of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Cameras from a drone capturing a low-flying Russian Mi-35 attack helicopter falling prey to a Ukrainian Stinger missile. The chopper, flying at low altitude to avoid radars, to avoid eyes, meets a devastating end. The Stinger missile, supplied by NATO with infrared homing systems, hitting the helicopter with deadly accuracy. Both Germany and the United States have been pumping in large numbers of Stinger missiles to the Ukrainian military over the last few weeks in order to challenge and shoot down Russian air power. The missile proving its worth in this video, the first of its kind released by the Ukrainian government. Reported to be on the outskirts of capital Kiev, showing the heavily armed military helicopter of the Russian armed forces ending in a massive fireball and a plume of smoke. A rapid and fiery end to an attack helicopter crew that could well have been on an attack mission.
This Mi-35 helicopter, and when you look at these images, it's a young soldier who's actually running behind that helicopter, aims with his surface-to-air man-portable Stinger missile, fires and forgets, and it goes and hits the target. It goes and hits the attack helicopter, and the attack helicopter comes crashing down. This shows how a Stinger can easily bring down a low-flying fighter plane. It can bring down a helicopter.
As Russian troops advance into several parts of Ukraine and encircle cities, images of the Ukrainian residents have been flooding social media. This time, a Russian jet apparently being shot down in the northern city of Chernihiv. Captured on camera by local residents while they cheered as the jet was brought down. It was later reported that the Russian pilot of the jet had been captured alive, while his co-pilot didn't survive. Another Russian plane was shot down in the city of Mykolaiv. A dramatic video of the plane's pilot being interrogated by Ukrainian forces has also surfaced.
Какой часть? 59-88, да. Откуда сам родом? Прям родился родом? Да.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy claims in a televised address Ukraine has captured, wounded and killed over 10,000 Russian soldiers since the start of the invasion.
Almost 10,000 Russian soldiers killed. 10,000. This is dreadful.
There's plenty of fighting. Airstrikes are basically an everyday occurrence all over Ukraine. Again, that's why Ukraine repeats its demand to close off the sky for the Russians. Russians are using those planes to hit civilian targets, pedestrian districts. Reality is this is a battle that is raging all over Ukraine, and Russians are using their air power advantage to push at the civilians like in no time since the Second World War.
President Putin, meanwhile, has blamed the United Kingdom for triggering the military conflict. Can Ukraine successfully resist the overwhelming and intensifying scale of the invading force? With Gaurav Sawant and Rajesh Pawar in Kiev, Bureau Report, India Today. Well, Putin has definitely raised the intensity of his attacks on day 11 of this invasion. Dramatic images of Russian Sukhoi Su-25 jets bombing the capital Kiev suburbs got on camera just yesterday. These have also become some of the most visible images of the increase in air power being used in the war right now. Take a look at this report from yesterday. "25 kilometers from Ukraine's capital, in the middle of the city of Irpin, a pair of Russian jets dropped their bombs. Terrifying footage filmed from a citizen's mobile phone captures the thundering explosion as the munitions strike the ground. Listen in once again to this hair-raising sequence. Another video of the same attack or similar strike in Irpin has been captured on mobile camera from someone in their home. The unsettling clip captures the bombs hitting the ground and the two jets then streaking away. The fighters doing the dropping are believed to be Russian Air Force Sukhoi Su-25 strike aircraft designed to provide close air support to Russian ground forces. In the absence of Russia's more formidable air superiority fighters, Su-25 jets appear to have been deployed for maximum airstrike duties in the current conflict. Ukraine has so far claimed to have shot down at least 4 of these jets, though these remain in the realm of claims for now. The video footage of the airstrikes near Kiev suggests that Russia has begun to bomb areas very close to the Ukraine capital, closing in on Kiev that could soon be encircled also from the ground. The combination of brute strength on the roads and strike weaponry from the air is being seen as a visible escalation in the battle to make Kiev bend.
I was in Irpin yesterday and I was not allowed to film there because Russians are too close. They're just a kilometer away. We could see a Russian tank there and they told the local residents or the reporters who are still stuck there, they said generally the firing takes place in the night. There's huge damage in Irpin, including in the civilian area.
The images also indicate that jet fighters are striking deeper inside Ukraine than earlier believed. Russian claims of having paralyzed Ukrainian air defense could find strength on the back of today's images from Irpin. But Ukraine will look to push back by saying it has shot down scores of Russian aircraft already. The true battle for Kiev could be dead ahead. With Gaurav Sawant and Rajesh Pawar in Kiev and Geeta Mohan in Lviv, Bureau Report, India Today. And Geeta Mohan, our Foreign Affairs editor, is in Kiev. We've got the biggest team of reporters in Kiev at this time. Geeta, good to see you. I hope you're safe. With us live from Kiev this morning. The escalation in hostilities after about 36 hours of a bit of a lull are visible once again, Geeta, in several parts of Ukraine right now, including, not very far from where you're standing. You're standing on the outskirts of Kiev, looks like. Between yesterday and today, we've seen airstrikes, shelling, rocket attacks, no more than 20 kilometers from where you are. What's the current status as far as the capital of Ukraine is concerned?
Well, the situation on the ground, Shiv, is quite tense. We are here, like you said, on the outskirts because we entered Kiev late last night. The entire area with curfew and checkposts was an arduous Herculean task just to get to a safe house here where we are. And we will be moving to the city to show you exactly what's happening on the ground. But the situation is quite tense. It seems like the Russian forces are not going to stop. They're very close to the capital city, and we have seen the kind of determination and repelling of forces by the Ukrainian side. But again, Shiv, unless and until there is an absolute support from the West, it doesn't seem like the Ukrainian side will have enough in terms of firepower, in terms of manpower, particularly so, to repel Russian forces. So we've seen the Ukrainian president in his latest speech, asking the country to come together, stand by Ukraine, fight for Ukraine. But he's also, again, appealed to the international community to come and stand by Ukraine. What does that mean in terms of the logistic support, in terms of ground support, is something, again, we'll have to wait and see. Because, Shiv, the West is very clear. This is not their conflict. And if this is not their conflict, it is the Ukrainians who have to fight it out. Situation rather tense. I've been speaking to people. Yesterday, when we were traveling from Lviv to Kiev, there were young people who were on board. I spoke to one of them whose name was Vladimir, and he said, I no longer want to be called Vladimir. I will be called Vladim. He's changing his name. That's the kind of hatred. So if the Russian side, to a certain extent, says that they do not want to hurt the civilians, they already have. And that's the sense that you get. A lot of older people also coming back to Kiev because there's nowhere else to go. Lviv is absolutely jam-packed when it comes to people, homes that have taken in everyone. But this is a human catastrophe more than anything else. And you'll be seeing that in coming days. This is going to be a prolonged one if things continue the way it's continuing here on the ground in Ukraine.
Geeta, very quick question, because you're familiar with this also. The capture of nuclear facilities. The Russians have taken over Chernobyl, which is defunct, but it is still staffed and maintained. Zaporizhia is under Russian control. We understand that they're very close to the South Ukraine nuclear power plants, which would make it the second active nuclear facility that could be in their control. There are rumors of an Operation Blackout to try and control the power supply to Ukraine as a kind of military objective and effect the end of this crisis as quickly as possible. How are you reading this? Putin's move to capture as many of these nuclear facilities as possible?
Well, a very, very pertinent question, Shiv. One, if Putin is looking at nuclear facilities, it certainly will not be for a complete blackout, because if Russia says that they do not want to impact and affect civilians, then this could mean a lot of impact in terms of casualties because of the weather here in Ukraine. Secondly, they've taken over very important key nuclear installations. I was speaking to somebody who keeps a keen watch on what's really happening on the ground and on these facilities, and he said that if anything were to happen to key installations on the east end of Ukraine, it will not just impact Ukraine, it is going to impact Russia. It is going to impact all those areas that are pro-Russia as well. So Putin has to walk a very, very fine walk over here. He needs to ensure that while taking control, if he takes control of the nuclear plants, he's taking control of the entire population and how they really are going to survive, which is a fight for survival. So it is going to be an arm twisting tactic, not one where he would want civilian casualty, and certainly not one where the pro-Russian speaking people, or there are many who have Russian passports, Shiv, in Donetsk and Luhansk, that they are impacted and affected. So they're being very careful with the nuclear plants. But this is a conflict situation, and you know more than anyone else, if things go wrong, it'll go wrong in a jiffy. And then there is going to be no control to what can happen to Ukraine and to Russia.
Geeta, stay safe. We're going to come back to you. Attacks, airstrikes, missile attacks happening only about 20 kilometers away. Every time we talk to our reporters, Geeta and Gaurav, we can actually hear the thud of those explosions in the distance. We hope that calms down, but it doesn't appear to be the case. So stay safe, Geeta. We'll keep coming back to you. Thanks very much for joining me for the moment. 5 images of the mayhem that we're seeing across Ukraine on day 11. It's visible, it's audible, it's disturbing, it's unsettling, and it's not calming down anytime soon. Full reports from Kharkiv, from Chernihiv and Kiev on the other side of this break. Stay with India Today.